Hey there, it's been a minute since we've talked about the old Ezekiel build, and I thought we were well overdue for a little bit of a tour. That's right, LutherCraft is back, ladies and gentlemen. So I thought today we could do a quick overview of the build as it's going so far, and I thought I could do a little bit of a verse-by-verse kind of read-through of Ezekiel chapter 40 and show how all the proportions line up, and you guys can judge me on my choices that I had to make. Because building in Minecraft something that's explained by someone who lived like over 2,000 years ago and did not use meters or feet or anything like that is hard, okay? It's hard, it's not perfect, but I think it's pretty cool. So let's start by swooping down here. The entrance of this big thing. So this is the big gate. I showed off in like the first episode. This is the map. You can see we're right there. The green dot, that's us. And the altar is in the geometrical center of the whole build. And you got stuff all around it. Okay, now let's pull out Ezekiel chapter 40 and get a read through of this. So in Ezekiel 40, there's an angel. He's got a big bronze rod. The rod is supposed to be 6 long cubits high, which is best as we can estimate is basically 3 Minecraft blocks. A Minecraft block is supposedly 1 meter by 1 meter, so 1 reed is about 3 blocks. So as we go through, that's kind of our measuring stick. Ezekiel 40 chapter 5, and behold, there was a wall around the outside of the temple area, and the length of the measuring reed in the man's hand was 6 long cubits, each being a cubit and a handbreadth in length. So he measured the thickness of the wall 1 reed, and the height 1 reed. So here's our wall. It's 1 reed high. 1, 2, 3. There we go, reed. And it's a reed thick. So that's our dimensions. That's how big the wall is, which is kind of small, in my opinion, given all things considered. But I don't know. Maybe security just isn't a huge issue. All right, then we come to verse 6, which says, Then he went into the gateway facing east, going up its steps, and measured the threshold of the gate 1 reed deep. So here's the east gate. There's the sun rising right over there. That's the east. And here we go. He goes up the threshold, and it is 1 reed deep. So, I mean, I don't know if that counts as a threshold. I think it does. There we go. 1 reed deep. Then verse 7, And the side rooms, 1 reed long and 1 reed broad, and the space between the side rooms, 5 cubits, and the threshold of the gate by the vestibule of the gate at the inner end, 1 reed. So to make that simple, you got the side rooms, and they are 1 reed wide and 1 reed deep. So you've got that going on right there. And these, to the best of my knowledge, are like guard rooms. And then the space between the rooms is supposedly 5 cubits. Now, I cannot make that work perfectly in Minecraft. So we're getting 2 blocks, and you're going to have to use your imagination. And then the threshold at the other side of the gate, the inside, I believe it's called the vestibule, and the whole thing together is called the gate. That's as best as I can put together from this. And the threshold on the inside is also 1 reed long. So there you go, nice and symmetrical, nice and pretty. There we go, there's the gate. Then the next several verses just kind of go over the dimensions of how tall it is, how far across wide it is, how deep it is, and that's just a little bit too much. I don't feel like going over all of that jazz at the moment. And the distance between this gate and this gate is 50 cubits, which I did my best to convert to blocks. And there we go, 50 cubits from here to here. And then in verse 16, it says, And the gateway had windows all around, narrowing towards the side rooms and toward their jambs, and likewise the vestibule had windows all around, inside, and on the jambs were palm trees. So basically you have the windows, these little side slits that go up like so. And then on the inside, and I think also here, you're supposed to have images of palm trees, but it is hard enough to make a realistic tree with 3 blocks of material to work with. So we're going to use our imagination and pretend like those are palm trees. They're not pillars, they're palm trees. Okay? That's what we're going with, okay? Don't judge me. I'm doing my best. Okay, then verse 17 says, Then he brought me into the outer court, and behold, there were chambers and a pavement all around the court. 30 chambers faced the pavement, and the pavement ran along the sides of the gates corresponding to the length of the gates. This was the lower pavement. Then he measured the distance from the inner court of the lower gate to the outer front of the inner court, 100 cubits on the east side and on the north gate. So to make all of that simple, this right here, all of this that we're flying over right now, this is the outer court. And these right here that I'm flying over right now, these are the chambers. And there are 30 of these chambers. And basically, we learn later that this is where people eat food. They're little diners. And the kitchens, which we find out much later, go right here, and I haven't started on them yet. And that's basically the inner court. There's not a whole lot more to it. I had to be a little bit creative when designing these sort of outer pockets as we climb our way into the altar. There's nothing that really, he says, goes here, so I just decided to put something pretty. And then we get to the inner gates, and it's raining. Let's fix that, shall we? So verses 20 to 27, it talks about the other gates, and basically the gist of it is that they're all exactly the same. They're all exactly the same in how they look, and for the most part how they function, and their distance between the outer gate and the inner gate. And then once the angel sort of covers all of that detail, we make our way into the inner court. And you can see the holy ghast floating around having a good time, and the altar in front of us here. And in verse 47, it says, the angel measured the court 100 cubits long and 100 cubits broad, a square, and the altar was in front of the temple. So 100 cubits by 100 cubits, or as close as we can approximate it using Minecraft blocks. You can see it's a perfect square. I'll just go up and kind of look at it. Perfect square. And then you can see that little cutout divot right there. That is where the entrance to the temple goes. So right here is where the stairs go, and then you go up into the temple, and that's my next big project. And the altar is in front of the temple. Interesting things that I've noted, there is no big basin. In Solomon's temple, there's a big bronze basin that's supposed to hold the water. That goes back as a reference to the smaller bronze basin in Moses' tabernacle. But for whatever reason, I could not find any reference to any sort of big bronze basin in the whole schematic. However, there is reference to like washing rooms, and I'm pretty sure one of them goes right here. So I'm going to have to rip out what I put there and put a little washing room. And then there's other little details that I've had a really difficult time like finding good models to follow, because to be honest, I do rely pretty heavily on models that other theologians have put together and mapped out for me. I do read the text, obviously. I wouldn't be able to do this if I hadn't read the text, but I do rely heavily on the models. But to be honest, sometimes the models just aren't helpful because there's these little details that I feel like not everyone is really agreed upon what it should look like or where it even goes. So I have to make some creative decisions when I get to that point. But basically, this is where I'm at with the build. I've got the outer court basically done. I've got a little bit more block placing to do on the outside. And then I've got the inner court looking really nice. And the next job is to work on the temple. So that's basically what we're looking at here. If you want to see me complete this build and follow along with the progress, you know what to do. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.